Okay, so we are now back again in our discussion on finding the discriminant of a quadratic equation. So again, our first step is to look for the value of your A, for your B, as well as for the value of your C. So again, our A is a coefficient that is beside a variable of x squared. So therefore, our A is 4. Okay, while our B is a coefficient or a number that is beside a variable of x. So we have -4. Okay, so that's -4. Our C is a constant number. So therefore, constant siya, wala siya variable. So that is +6. So since you already have the values of your A, B, and C, it's now time to use or to solve for the discriminant D, and the formula is b squared minus 4ac. So again, it's very important that you know how to identify the discriminant, because later on it will guide you what will be the possible roots of your quadratic equation. So at this point, let us solve for the discriminant first. So your b squared minus 4ac, just substitute all the values of your a, b, and c to the formula. So again, your b is -4, so that is -4 squared. Copy the minus sign, copy as well the 4, and the value of your a is also 4, and the value of your c is equal to 6. Okay, at this point, just simplify. What is -4 squared? -4 times -4 is +16. Okay, that's correct. And the 4, what is -4 times +4? Okay, if you multiply -4 and +4, that is equal to -16. So -16, again, -16 times +6, that is equal to -96. So you can use your calculators. So again, -4 times +4, that is -16. So -16 times 6, that is -96. So let's simplify. What is +6, +16 minus 96, and that is -80. So therefore, our discriminant is -80. Okay, now in the case if your discriminant is less than 0, okay, if your discriminant is less than 0, if you can still recall, if our discriminant is greater than 0, and if it's perfect square, therefore you'll have two rational numbers and unequal numbers. And if your D or discriminant is greater than 0 but not a perfect square, it means that your roots are actually irrational as well as unequal. Now in the case of our example here, your D or discriminant is actually less than 0 because your discriminant is -80. So your possible roots are actually imaginary numbers. Okay? So your possible roots are actually imaginary as well as complex, which means your possible roots are actually with a square root and a negative number. Okay? So for layman's terms, so that dali ta makasabot, ang imuhang roots ana is a square root of a negative number. That is why we call it as imaginary number. So let us try to solve it if these roots, or we can arrive with these roots with an imaginary number or complex number. So Now, how can I solve for the roots of 4x squared minus 4x plus 6 is equal to 0? What will I use? So, I will use now the quadratic formula. So, again, if you can still recall, the quadratic formula is x minus b, positive, negative, the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So I will use the quadratic formula. Hence, we have already the guide that our discriminant is an imaginary or complex number. So which means di na ko maglisod-lisod nga mag-use ko og factoring because I will arrive at imaginary number. So therefore, di na ko mag-factoring pero mag-quadratic formula na ko para makuha na ko ang square root or ang roots. Okay? So now, since we already have the values of your a, b, and c, we just simply substitute it to our formula. So we have negative. The b is a negative 4. Okay? Positive, negative, the square root of b squared. So again, your b is negative 4 squared minus 4. Your a is positive 4. And your c is positive 6. So again, your negative, your b is negative 4. Positive, negative, the square root of b squared, which is negative 4 squared, minus copy 4. Your a is 4 and your c is 6 over the 2 times your a is positive 4. So therefore, negative and negative 4, so negative times negative 4, that is positive 4. Plus and minus the square root. What is negative 4 squared? That is positive 16. Okay? Negative 4 times positive 4, that is negative 16, times positive 6, that is negative 96. So it's just the same earlier. Over 2 times 4, that is 8. So therefore, we simplify the numbers that is inside the square root. So 16 minus 96, that is negative 80 over 8. Okay? Now, if we cannot simplify a square root, we just need to arrive directly to our final answer. So 4 plus square root of negative 80 over 8. So that is our first root. Our second root now is 4 minus the square root of negative 80 over 8. Okay, now if you observe at our final answers, there is a square root with a negative number, and that is what we mean by imaginary or complex numbers. So therefore, our final answer would be already a correct answer. Okay? Now, please do, if you want to simplify this one, you can. Okay? We can still simplify the square root of negative 80, but for grade 9 student, let us stop there, no? Di lang sa ta maabot atong mga, because imaginary I is equal to the square root of negative 1. But we will not arrive how can we simplify negative square root of negative 80 because we still have our topic for radicals. Okay? So you have to make sure that if in case dili gani siya ma-simplify using your calculator, diha na siya kutob. Okay? So again, our final answers are 4 plus square root of negative 80 over 8, and the other root, root number 2 and root number 1, is 4 minus square root of negative 80 over 8. So again, it's very important that you also base your discriminant because it's very important to your final answer. So again, If your discriminant is less than 0, like for example negative 80, your roots are imaginary or complex numbers.